All right, everybody, get ready because today we are taking a deep dive into the world of Yogacara Buddhism.
Excited to be here.
We're going to unpack these really interesting lecture excerpts and kind of pull out what makes Yogacara unique and see if we can't find some wisdom that applies to us even today.
Sound good?
Now, Buddhism, it wasn't just like boom, one thing, right? It had this long evolution.
Right.
It thrived in India for, get this, 1,500 years.
Wow.
That's longer than Christianity has existed in many parts of the world.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And in that time, it went through these different phases.
Absolutely, yeah.
And those are known as jhanas, which you can think of as like vehicles on the path to enlightenment.
Perfect analogy, yeah.
So can you kind of walk us through these different vehicles? What are we talking about here?
Sure, so we start with Hinayana, often called the small vehicle.
Small vehicle, okay.
It emphasizes individual enlightenment, really strong ethics, and mostly for people living a monastic life.
Okay, so it's about that personal journey, understanding yourself, living a moral life.
Exactly.
Okay, what comes next?
Then comes Mahayana Buddhism, the great vehicle. And this is where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
This arose as a response to Hinayana and said, no. It's not just about our own enlightenment.
Okay.
It's about everybody reaching that awakened state.
Oh, wow.
It starts to embrace things like metaphysics, devotion, and it welcomes both lay people and monks.
So Mahayana is saying, hey, enlightenment isn't a solo trip. We're all in this together.
Yes, exactly. Hop on the bus.
I like it. Okay, so we've got the small vehicle, the great vehicle. Is there another one?
And lastly, we have Vajrayana, sometimes called the diamond vehicle or tantric Buddhism.
Diamond vehicle. Okay, getting fancy.
This one, think of it as the express lane to enlightenment.
Ooh.
Full of symbolism and esoteric practices.
Okay, so that one's a little mysterious.
A little bit, yeah.
Now, you mentioned Yogacara is part of the Mahayana family, right?
That's right.
So within this great vehicle, what makes Yogacara stand out? What's their unique flavor?
That's a great question. Well, you see, within Mahayana Buddhism, you have these two main schools of thought.
Two schools. Okay, so it's not all just one big happy Mahayana family.
Not exactly. You've got Madhyamaka and Yogacara, each with its own distinct flavor.
Okay, so two branches within Mahayana. What sets them apart? Give us the rundown.
Okay, so imagine Madhyamaka as the philosophical debaters of Buddhism.
Oh, I like that.
They're all about logic, reason, using those tools to deconstruct any rigid views of reality.
So kind of like shaking things up, questioning everything we think we know.
Absolutely. Challenging those assumptions we cling to.
I can dig it.
Now, Yogacara, on the other hand, they take a different approach.
Okay.
They're all about diving into direct experience through meditation.
Interesting.
You can think of them as the inner scientists of Buddhism.
Inner scientists. I like that. So less talk, more meditation.
Exactly. They explore the nature of the mind through deep introspection.
So less about debating what's real and more about experiencing it firsthand.
You got it.
Fascinating. And what's really wild is that, modern psychology,
Yeah.
they're starting to catch up to what these Yogacara folks were exploring like centuries ago.
Absolutely. They were ahead of their time.
Through meditation, exploring consciousness way before Freud or Jung were even a thing.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. You've definitely piqued my interest here. Let's dive into this inner science lab of Yogacara then.
Let's do it.
What's the big aha moment? The core idea that makes Yogacara so unique?
At the heart of it all is this radical idea that ultimate reality is cittamatra.
Cittamatra. Say that again?
Cittamatra, it's often translated as mind only.
Mind only. Okay, gotta admit, that sounds a little out there, even for me.
It's a big one for sure.
Does that mean, like, they think the physical world is just an illusion, like we're all in the Matrix or something?
Not exactly.
Okay.
It's not that they deny the physical world exists.
Okay.
It's more that they're saying our experience of reality, how we perceive it, that's ultimately shaped by our minds.
Okay, so it's not about whether that chair is really there. It's about how our minds experience that chair.
Exactly.
Interesting. So our thoughts, feelings, perceptions, they're all creating our own personal version of reality.
That's the idea. And Yogacara uses the example of dreams a lot.
Dreams.
We experience them as totally real in the moment,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
even though they don't exist in a physical, tangible way like a chair does.
Right, like my dream about flying last night.
Yeah,
Not exactly going to book a flight based on that.
exactly. But in the dream, it felt real.
Totally. So is Yogacara suggesting our waking reality, the one we're in right now, is it also being shaped by our minds in ways we don't even realize?
You're catching on.
Okay, all right. My mind is officially a little bit blown, but I'm with you so far. So to unpack this whole mind-only thing even further, we have to talk about Yogacar's map of consciousness, right?
Exactly. They map out 8 levels of consciousness, what they call vijnanas.
8 levels. Whoa, okay, you're telling me there's way more going on in my head than I even thought.
You could say that.
All right, let's break it down. What are these levels?
So the first few are a bit more straightforward. We've got the 5 senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing.
Makes sense. Those are pretty fundamental.
Right. And then after the senses, you have what's called mind consciousness. This level processes all the data from those 5 senses.
Okay, so kind of like the brain's central processing unit, taking in all that sensory information.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But it doesn't just passively process. This is also where our thoughts, memories, emotions, that inner monologue, it all arises here.
Ah, yes, the never-ending inner chatter. I know that one well.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It's the level of awareness we're most familiar with, the one that's always going.
Always. But you said there are 8 levels, so I'm guessing it doesn't stay all grocery lists and to-do reminders from here on out.
You're right about that.
What lies beneath the surface of these everyday thoughts? What's happening in the deeper levels? Hit me with those deeper levels. What's lurking beneath the surface of those everyday thoughts and senses?
All right, so this is where Yogacara really dives deep. The 7th level of consciousness, it's called manas.
Manas, okay.
It's Sanskrit for mind, and it's considered key to understanding how we experience like ourselves and the world around us, on a daily basis.
Okay, so how does this manas fit into all of this? What's its role?
Think of it like the mind's interpreter, taking in all that data. But here's the catch. It's prone to, shall we say, misinterpretation.
Just interpretations, huh? Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So it receives input from the senses, right? The stuff we talked about, and the lower levels of mind. But it also gets this reflection from the very deepest level of consciousness, the alaya.
Well, okay, hold on. So it's connected to both the outer world through the senses and this inner world, the alaya.
Exactly. It's this bridge between the two. But remember those misinterpretations I mentioned?
Oh, yeah, those weren't very reassuring.
Well, here's where it gets really wild. The manas looks at all this data, this jumble of sensory information, and the reflection from the alaya. And it basically constructs this illusion of a separate self.
Wait, so you're saying our sense of self, our ego, that's all a construct of the manas?
That's the Yogacara perspective, yeah. We have this strong feeling of being a separate me experiencing the world out there.
Right, like that's just common sense, isn't it?
It's definitely how we experience things, but Yogacara says, hold on, that's not the whole picture. It's a construct, one that's useful, sure, but not the ultimate truth of what's going on.
Mind blown. So if the manas is creating the sense of self based on these misinterpretations, what's the real deal? What's happening at that deepest level, the alaya?
Okay, so the alaya, that's the 8th vijnana, the bedrock of consciousness, and Yogacara says it has 2 aspects, the relative alaya and the absolute alaya.
2 sides to the same coin. I like it. Let's start with relative alaya. What's going on there?
So the relative alaya is like this massive storehouse of karmic seeds.
Karmic seeds. You're really hitting me with the big metaphors today.
But I gotta love them, right? But think about it. These karmic seeds are from this life, past lives, all your experiences shaping who you are, even if you're not consciously aware of them.
So kind of like our subconscious mind, all those hidden influences and patterns.
You got it. It's very similar, actually, to Jung's idea of the collective unconscious.
Oh, right. Jung, I've heard of that. So all those past experiences, they're like this blueprint influencing who we are today, even if we don't realize it.
Exactly. But then there's the absolute alaya. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the absolute alaya all about?
This one's pure, unconditioned awareness, like the source code of reality itself.
The source code of reality. Now, that's a bold statement.
And here's the amazing part. It's not separate from us. It's not out there somewhere. It's the very ground of our being.
Wow, okay, so no wonder we don't experience this directly all the time if our manas is busy constructing egos and separate realities over here.
Right, we're so caught up in those interpretations that we rarely, if ever, tap into the pure awareness of the alaya, but Yogacara says it kind of is possible.
Okay, how? Tell me more, this is fascinating stuff.
And that brings us to the concept of pravriti.
Pravriti, okay, that sounds promising. What is that?
This is about a radical shift in consciousness that Yogacara says is possible. Not about slowly improving ourselves, but like a complete transformation in how we experience reality.
So not just an upgrade, but a total system reboot.
Exactly. And it all goes down at the deepest level, the alaya. When those pure seeds we've been accumulating, through ethical actions, meditation, they become so strong they break through the hold of the ego-driven manas.
So all those efforts, all those little things we do to live a more conscious, compassionate life, those are planting the seeds for this pravriti moment.
Exactly. Think of a rock, right? And all those tiny cracks that appear from countless blows, eventually, boom, total transformation.
And what happens then after this pravriti moment? How does reality look from that alaya perspective?
Right. So this is where it gets really, truly remarkable. Even the eight vijnanas, all those levels of consciousness, they transform into 5 types of wisdom called jhanas. It's pure awareness, unobstructed by the ego, like seeing reality as it truly is.
Wow, so it's about reaching enlightenment, seeing through the illusions of the manas, and experiencing the world through the alaya.
You could say that, yeah, it's liberation. And what's amazing is that Yogacara gives us this incredible map for that journey.
It's definitely given me a lot to think about. I mean, if reality is ultimately mind only, how does that change the way we live? Our relationships, our decisions, everything.
Those are the questions, right? The ones Yogacara really encourages us to explore.
Well, it certainly leaves us with plenty to ponder. Big thanks to you for joining us on this incredible deep dive into Yogacara Buddhism.
My pleasure.
And for everyone listening, be sure to check out the show notes for some further reading. You might just have your own pravriti moment. Thanks for listening, everybody.